The Swiss Finance Museum was opened in 2017, so we're actually fairly young. And when we opened, there were 1,111 museums in Switzerland. Switzerland is one of the countries that actually has one of the highest rate of museums per inhabitant. So there were over 1,000 museums in Switzerland, but none of them dealt with, finance, which is amazing when you think about Switzerland being a country that's famous for, mountains, cheese, chocolate, but then obviously also banking and money. So we kind of filled the gap there. And what we're showing is the history of the Swiss financial market. We're operated by a charitable foundation that's actually been existing a lot longer than the Swiss Finance Museum. The foundation was founded in 2003 after the Swiss Stock Exchange was one of the first ones to switch from actually physical trading, exchange trading, to the fully electronic one. That was in 1996. And the foundation collects historical shares and wants to make those accessible to the public, because back then in 96, they thought, if physical trading is going to disappear, no one's going to know how a share actually looked. And so that is one of the things that we're doing. We're exhibiting historical shares, and with those, we're kind of trying to tell the history of trading, of world economics, where trading came from, what were the first share companies as we know them today. So think about all these East India companies that you have in the 1600s. One of the large parts of our duties and what we want to do at the Finance Museum is obviously also contribute to financial literacy. So not just, cultural heritage and show historical shares and have the artsy part and the history part, but also kind of get young people to come, get young people to understand what finance is about and why it's important. The financial literacy bit is kind of twofold. One part is we have, just like ongoing programs that we're running in the museum. We're approaching schools, and a lot of schools come to take tours. We have specialized workshops for really like smaller children that would be too young to take a tour, but it's more of a playful, interactive kind of way to get them engaged with money and finances. We have more playful programs for youth and then for young or older students, so to speak. So for example, we developed a kind of museum game, which is sort of like an escape room that you play in our museum, but you learn about finance, you learn about the history of finance in a more interactive and playful way. So those are ongoing programs. People in schools can just book them and come and take them. And then the other part that we're doing is we're taking part in all these global initiatives that are happening right now around financial literacy. So right now, Global Investor Week is running, and that's an initiative of the World Federation of Exchanges and also IOSCO and a lot of stock exchanges worldwide. And we are taking part in that together with SIX, the company that runs the Swiss Stock Exchange. And what we did there is we are running a week-long program on social media, because the week is kind of geared towards younger people. And then we thought, well, it's going to be kind of hard to get to them, and why not try to get them where they spend a lot of their time anyway. So we are running a week-long program on Instagram that has different things. So we were doing video interviews with influencers, or financial influencers that explain, different topics around finances. So for example, today we did something on Instagram Live with a lady who's like a blogger and also the owner of a fintech in Switzerland, and she's quite famous. And she kind of explained why it is important to invest instead of just saving money, but to actually at a younger age already start investing in shares. We have another one coming up towards the end of the week where someone's going to explain the differences in the pension model in Switzerland and why it's also important that young people already think about it and start saving up in those pension schemes. We have a raffle where we're giving away prizes, financial literacy prizes, so like a master class and financial parenting program, different books for small children that are already dealing with finances, and a couple of those courses that I just mentioned that we're giving at the museum. Cryptocurrencies obviously is a big topic, especially for like the younger people that come and visit our museum. So we have a station there that's very interactive, and obviously, it's kind of like it's a large touch screen, and you can just touch and look at things, because how are you going to exhibit digital assets? It's not going to, you don't have anything to look at. But we tried to explain it in very layman's terms, kind of what it is, what it's based on, why there is such a hype, but also obviously like what could be the risks when doing that. Because here for the young people, it's all, it's very cool. They're all interested. They all will buy Bitcoin and maybe make a couple grand. And we're not saying don't do that, but we're just trying to say, well, if you're doing that, consider this. Part of our exhibition is a station where we try to explain different investment vehicles, so to speak. So we're also explaining, what are structured products, what are ETFs, but then of course also what are commodities, what are the different options in commodities you have, how do those differ to for example an ETF that's based on shares or a structured product that's based on something else. So it is part of our permanent exhibition, yes, and we're trying to also kind of explain that, which is hard because we're doing it in like 90-second videos and not that easy. The most popular things are definitely, the historical shares in a way, because so for example, we just recently added a share certificate of the French East India Company to our permanent exhibition. And that is, also from the 1600s. Then there's only 3 of those still existing. And this is the only one that's in a museum. So people still like that experience of, being somewhere and seeing the original. We currently don't exhibit, but we also own a share of Playboy and the Chaplin Studios. And both of them are hand signed by Hugh Hefner and also then Charlie Chaplin. And those two they're just loved. It's like whenever we put those on exhibit, people just love coming and looking at them. The Playboy one is one of the first ones that actually still had the Playmates on it. And that may play a role. And then obviously, the Chaplin Studio ones has his original signature in 2 places, and it's a serial number 1. So it's pretty cool. A lot of studies out there that show that, if financial literacy was to be higher or were to be higher, we could have, for example, prevented but the global financial crisis 2008 would have been less impactful if the level of financial literacy would have been higher in those people that were directly affected in it. So the World Bank did a study in 2014 and they found that out. A lot of other studies show that, countries, especially countries with like highly developed financial markets, such as the US, such as Switzerland, Germany, Sweden, they actually have a low level in financial literacy in the very young people and the very old. And that's kind of dangerous because the young people tend to make, difficult or wrong decisions as they get older. So I think one of the tasks that financial companies, but also especially museums as kind of like neutral instances have, is to do something to promote financial literacy and to kind of like get to the schools and show them that this is important and be a place where students and younger people hopefully like to come and in a more, joyful way like to learn. So I think that is critically important. I think there needs to be done a lot more to promote financial literacy.